welcome Whitney. Whitney, thank you so much for joining us. Whitney has a business called Lava Virtual, and she's been around our memberships and networks for quite some time, and we absolutely have enjoyed spending time with you, Whitney. So I want to jump in terms of like talking about your business. What we want to hear is a few little meaty details, like starting off really about when did you actually get started? When did you launch your VA business? I know you've been through a few changes, but when did you initially get started?
Oh gosh. I initially started, firstly, thank you for welcoming me so warmly. That's beautiful. I initially got started December 2022.
Right.
Yeah. And that was when I registered my first business name. So I count that as my very first starting
And
date.
that's exactly right. We all do. Look, honestly, I have to say, the secret's out. I actually started with a business name I hated, totally hated, and it didn't take me
Really?
long to actually totally rebrand. So yeah,
Oh, very
but yes,
similar.
so it's 2022, late 2022. So you've been running your business for a couple of years now.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us, like, really, what was the reason, the catalyst for you getting into your own business?
Yeah, I'll keep it short because, like most businesses, it's a bit of a journey. But I was actually working in banking. I worked for a Big Four bank for a long time, for 12 years. And I grew my career from a little casual bank teller up into operations and project management. And I was a branch manager and a few other things. But then, unfortunately, a role I was in was when I was about to have my second baby became redundant.
Right.
So I was 36 weeks pregnant, and yeah, my beautiful manager had to like drop the bomb on me that I no longer had a job.
Wow.
So I actually knew someone who did the VA Institute course,
All right.
a quick start course it might have been.
Yep.
And she was working as a VA. So I reached out to her to say, oh my God, this has happened to me. And it was the same thing that happened to her. She was made redundant when she was on maternity leave by a bank.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how I got started. And then I bought Ingrid's book. And that's where the journey really began for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, a lot of people find themselves in, well, generally it's life-changing situations where we see people go, okay, what do I do now? And it does come back to, it's hard because you've kind of got to reinvent yourself. You've had the wool pulled out from underneath you, and it's like, what do I do? How do I actually make this work? And yeah, when you're that close to having a baby, it's not like you can just turn around and find a job. That's
No, it
tricky.
was pretty obvious the state I was in by that point.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and I never envisaged myself working for myself. It was never a goal of mine. So it was a bit of an act of rebellion to start my own business. I decided I was never going to be vulnerable to an employer ever again.
Yeah,
Here I
that's
am.
and that's interesting because when you're employed, it's funny when you're on the other side of employment. And I know, you've kind of done both while you've been building your business as well.
Hmm.
And that's great. Like we can talk about that strategy in a minute. But I know that for me, particularly, I feel really vulnerable if I have to think about going back into the like in the employment world,
Hmm.
because it's almost like you have all your eggs in the one basket and you feel very much at risk if something was to go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's really interesting. So you've already talked about your background, and it sounds like, you've obviously had a lot of experience in that banking sector, and then working your way through. I can imagine how much you built up over the years. So what services now, though? What did you do with those skills? How did that kind of influence what you're providing as a service now?
Yeah. So I initially started out offering just life admin. And I very quickly realized that that wasn't going to be the direction that I wanted to head in. I had a lot of trouble attracting clientele that were willing to pay for that service. So everybody wants someone to help them with their life admin, but no one wants to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about running a business. You need to find paying clients.
You definitely do.
Amazing that. So now what I offer is basically two services, an online business management style service where I essentially come in as a fractional operations manager and support your business to roll out projects, streamline operations, hire people, fire people, necessary. Hope I haven't had to do that yet, but it is something I offer. Developing systems and processes, and just generally being a right-hand woman to the owner of the business. And then the other service that I provide is an EA service.
Right.
And that's usually for people that are self-employed, but that really more need support in their private life. So
Right.
yeah, so it's sort of a mix between business and personal, but it's just a little bit less of a commitment financially than going for the full OBM package for clients. So some start off on that.
Right. So interestingly, like, I just want to ask you a little bit more about, when you first set up, what was it that made you decide to start with life admin? Like, what was that about?
I was actually really inspired by a couple of leaders that I was working with in the last few years in my job, and a lot of them were really high performers in their job, but their personal lives were a mess.
Right.
And it really, and I say that with love, it wasn't anything that was inside of their control. But when you're performing at that level, you can't possibly juggle all the balls, and some things do get dropped.
Yeah.
So I just thought, how great would it be if people at that level could have someone to rely on to help them keep their personal life running smoothly while they kick some butt in their professional life.
Yeah.
And that's what really inspired me to start off with life admin.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like, the good thing for you was you were, you looked at it, it wasn't doing what you wanted it to do in terms of bringing an income in. So, you were able to pivot, which we have to do from time to time. We need to obviously go where the clients are, and that's what you've done. And that's the reality of running your own business, is that freedom to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
completely.
that's a really great thing to see, because in all honesty, I would suggest that, a lot of EAs, I'm not going to give a percentage, but I reckon a fairly large percentage of people who get started will reassess what they're offering once they've actually started to get out there and do what they're doing. And that's a normal part of growth in business, putting your business hat on.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I will say I am constantly reviewing my offerings, and don't be afraid to pull the pin on things that just don't work. There are certain aspects of the services that I offer at the moment that I'm actually planning to remove for various reasons. And a lot of the time it's just because I simply don't enjoy it. And there's plenty of services that I don't offer because I don't enjoy it. And that's my choice and it's my business. And I encourage anybody who's watching this to do the same, continually reviewing what you're offering and whether it's actually working for your clients or your target market. If no one's buying it, then maybe it's not in demand. So
yeah. I absolutely understand what you're saying about, realizing that something's not lighting you up, because, again, like, that's something that I went through very early on in my VA journey. And it was, it was interesting, because all of a sudden you're actually able to pull the pin, like, you've got that freedom to make those changes. So yeah, good on you for actually being able to recognize that so early in the piece too, I must say. So tell me now, like, let's talk about clients, because this is the big question that everyone gets really scared about. And I'm sure you were in a situation, and you definitely were, where you were looking for clients and wondering how on earth you were going to make it work. So tell me, how long did it take you, once you kind of established yourself, to get your first client, and how did that happen?
Okay, so I did not have a client for an entire year,
Oh gosh.
and it took ages. And honestly, I actually think it was a blessing, because I don't think I was actually ready to take on clients when I first started.
Mm.
And it would have been a shambles. So my first ever client, technically my first ever client, I got because I cold DM'd her on Instagram, and it was just pure luck that she was needing help. And that was really fortunate for me, because it gave me like a chance to figure out how to do this.
Yep.
But then that was around August 2023. And then I didn't get my first, I call them main client,
Mm.
until March 2024.
Okay.
So it took a while, probably partly because I didn't have a strong finding clients strategy, and I didn't have a strong process in place to capture those clients once they got on a discovery call. So over time, I've refined that process where it's much quicker now, and I can capture their interest and get them excited about working together and get them to sign up. Whereas previously it was way too slow, and obviously anyone who knows anything about sales, you've got to grab them while they're hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
That's an interesting learning too, because we don't, having been in employed roles, it's not something that we've ever kind of, like you said, aspired to running your own business.
Mm.
When you go through education, mainly in Australia, most of us are asked, what job are we going to do when we leave school, not what business
Mm.
are we going to run. So we actually don't have that innate knowledge about how to find clients, and that's a huge part of what we do. The other thing is that I do see, people definitely have a fear about that, and they hold themselves back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's obviously been a real journey for you, and I think hats off to you, because you've stayed the course, and I know you've had to implement some other options to make sure that you're able to do this,
Mm.
but you didn't give up. And, we always say that you won't ever fail if you don't give up. So,
Yeah.
you've actually made it work, which is pretty incredible. So tell me now, like, what does it look like for you? What does your business look like right now?
Right now, this very minute, I have 6 clients,
Wow.
and I'm a one-woman show at the moment. Hopefully soon to be 7. I've got one that's in consideration at the
Wow.
moment.
Yeah.
So how it looks right now is it's a busy time,
Yes.
but it's good busy. I will say, when I was working, so at the start of this year, when I was due to finish maternity leave and I didn't have a really strong client base, I did take an employed role, is in a government role, and I hustled pretty hard. I was working like before work. I was on training calls with new clients where they were like training me on their systems at 10 o'clock at night. I was taking meetings in my lunch break. I was working on the train to and from work. So this feels similar levels of busy.
Yeah.
So I don't advocate for it for a long period of time. But what I will say is that 2 out of those 6 clients are brand new. So it's always a busy time when they're first starting, and you're getting used to each other, and there's a big backlog of work that they need done. And then things start to level out, and you get a handle on things. But I think I'm at a point now where I probably can't take on any more
Wow.
clients at the moment. Yeah. Which
So
is great, it's great. It's really nice to see that people believe in what I'm offering, and want to work together.
and it's
Yeah.
almost like, you flip the switch, and all of a sudden it happened, didn't it?
It did, but I will say that 50% of my clients, my current clients and past clients, have come from Find a VA, which is the
Yeah,
lead
that's through
generation.
virtual momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, so run by the VA Institute. And I will say that other lead dashboards that I am a member of, the leads aren't great quality in terms of, like, you don't hear back from the people that have put a job up. So it's highly worthwhile for me in terms of like my strategy to apply for those expressions of interest and really put a good foot forward on those.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that other avenues are as fruitful to find clients.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's nice to hear.
Or whatever you're doing in the background is
I know.
working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
mean, the intention is always there. And I think, for us, it's always a focus on excellence. So, making sure that people understand that we're not just anyone, we're actually, we've got a stable of amazing VAs who are very skilled at what they do. So, yeah, no, that's really good feedback. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So tell me a little bit more about, your like the community and the connection that you've experienced as part of your journey. Like, how has that factored into finding clients for your business, do you think?
yeah, it's played a big part. There's kind of two prongs to answer that. The first part is having like a community of people that I can ask questions of, where you don't feel silly for saying, what app do I use for this? Or my client needs to do that. How are other people doing it? Because it's really, really helpful to seek advice from people who've gone before you.
Mm.
And as I said, like there's lots of services that I don't offer. So I'm able to go out to people that in the VA community that do offer that and say, do you have like capacity? I've got this client, they need this, and it's really helpful because it shows that you're a professional and that you've got this network of people that you can go to. It's also, I go to like some face-to-face networking, which I highly encourage anyone to do. And I've made some really great connections with those people. And then they've actually referred business to me, which is really, really nice. So I can't stress the importance of being active in the community and commenting on posts in Facebook and reaching out to people and offering to, jump on a Zoom call with someone. And just last week, someone else from Virtual Momentum jumped on a half an hour Zoom call with me to talk me through something that I was thinking about offering in my business, and they already offer it. And so, and they didn't have to do that. It was really nice of them to offer that for me. And yeah, and it wouldn't be possible without the community that has been built.
I agree. When I started, I thought, oh wow, I've come into something that surely the glow is going to fade in a little while, but it's still there, many, many years later. So it is a collaborative community, but I agree with you that face-to-face connection is always going to be a really good way to build. You build your business, but also get those word of mouth referrals through. So was that
Yeah,
a challenge for you, like face-to-face networking? Did you find it a bit scary?
I love face-to-face
Okay.
networking. Yeah, I mean, like scary is probably not the right word for it, but like it's hard to find the right group. I live in Sydney, but I don't live in the city. So I live way out near the Blue Mountains, and there's a lot of stuff happening out here, but finding the right group of people to connect with, that was hard. But yeah, I eventually found a little group that is really, really lovely. And I love the face-to-face days. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And you got to get out of your home office.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't
you
work at
do.
home
You
forever.
absolutely do. It's
Yeah.
part of, like, you're the boss of you, right? When you're running a business, if you don't do it, you don't do it. No one's going to advocate for you except you.
Exactly.
Okay, so I mean that's really, really interesting, and I think they're great takeaways for anyone who's watching this, right? So in terms of starting your business, like how has that changed your life? What's your life like now?
Oh, it's hard to even put it into words. I mentioned that I was heavily pregnant when I was made redundant, but I have an older daughter who's about to go to school next year, and the timing couldn't be more perfect because, as we all know, school hours are vastly different to daycare hours. And I used to drop her off at daycare at 7 o'clock in the morning and not pick her up until 5:30 at night, when I was working in a face-to-face role in my corporate job. And oftentimes I wouldn't be back in time to pick her up, so someone else would have to pick her up. So every day I can drop my kids to daycare. I can pick them up every day. If they're sick, I don't need to call anybody to say, sorry, I can't come in. I mean, like I let my clients know, but
Yeah.
it's just the flexibility is unmatched. And whilst it is a lot of work sometimes, and you do need to put in the hours, business and clients are not just going to magically come to you and pay you money to do nothing. But it would be nice if they did, but unfortunately, yeah, they do have expectations. So
Yeah.
but it's I've been able to. My husband was on parental leave for 9 months, and I was able to spend all that time with him because I was working from home. And yeah, it's been amazing.
Oh,
Big
it sounds like
change.
it's really contributed to your lifestyle
Yeah,
overall.
I would never go back and work for someone else ever. I'll
Love
move heaven and earth to make this business continue, or I would consider.
it. I mean, I always say there's loads of opportunity. How do you see it now? Now that you've figured out, you've got into the groove, what do you see?
There's plenty of opportunity. The trick is understanding what you offer and how you can communicate that to solve your client's problem.
Hmm.
And you don't need to offer everything.
No. Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean niche down into one particular, industry. Like I don't have an industry niche that I work in. I work across loads of different clients, but I offer a particular type of service.
Yeah.
So once I figured that out, it was much, much easier to market myself.
That's good. So you're speaking to your ideal client basically in everything
Yeah.
that you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of move towards wrapping this up because I know you are busy. So let's talk about if anyone, I mean, last comments really, if anyone was kind of wanting to get your insights into getting started, what would your advice be? Like, what are your key takeaways and advice if you were talking to someone about getting into the industry?
I think my key takeaways and advice, apart from reaching out to the VA Institute because they're amazing, I do things properly the first time. Get your business insurance, get your name registered. It just shows that you're seriously in business and that you're legit. And take your time to figure out what you really love doing and offer that, because that will shine through when you're trying to find the right clients. And don't just say yes to any client at all just because you need money or client. I know it's hard when you need money, but don't just fall into the trap of taking any and every possible job, because that will just crush your soul. And you'll feel so much more lit up by doing work that you love for people that you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Okay, on that note, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. We really appreciate it. And what I'll do is I'll put your details up on the slide when we put it up onto YouTube and out into Facebook or other social media platforms.
Thank
So
you.
if anyone has any questions, I'm sure, Whitney, you'd be okay with people contacting you via
Absolutely.
email, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Please don't hesitate. And I'm more than happy to spend some time with you to talk you through the finer points of what I did and how I did it. I'd be happy to help.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. All
Thank
right,
you.
Whitney. Well, we will talk to you again soon. I know that for a fact. But until then, we will say goodbye for now. Thank you so much.
Lovely to talk to you. Bye.